approval of our minutes from 112 Annual Conference meeting, August 14th. Can I make a motion to approve? Mark back approved. My second. Dwayne Bourgeois, second. Thank you. All right. Man, this is a nice facility. I want to thank everybody involved in having us over here. It's a great plan, a great welcome, and I feel very welcome over here. So thank you all, everyone here in Plaquemine. I'm going to move now on to our old business and pass it over to our director.
Thank you, Dr. Faulkner. Any old business? All right, we're going to hear from our hosts this morning. I want to thank the parish president, Chris Dagan, of course, the mayor of the city of Plaquemine, J.D. Barker. I believe they wanted to say a couple of words in opening to welcome us all here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention John Clark as well, of course, who works for the local parish. But they've been instrumental in facilitating the use of this facility. They sponsored the use of this facility and for welcoming us here to the city of Plaquemine and the local parish and making this possible. So I want to thank them from the get-go. It looks like Mr. Mayor is going to start. I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so thrilled that we have people from the 16 parishes represented, plus other agencies, to help showcase. I'm sure Heather and John bring y'all on a tour later in the day. I'm sure that's planned. I just want to tell you, for you people down south, I know y'all might feel like y'all in hill country up here in Plaquemine, Louisiana. But Plaquemine is a Chittimacha name for persimmon. So I'm assuming we'll celebrate next month our city's founding, not incorporation, but our founding in 1775. So I assume, I wasn't here back then, but when they came up to bayous, there were a lot of persimmon trees along the bayou. That's the history of it. But we're glad to have you. We have the Bayou Plaquemine where it meets the Mississippi River. We have Bayou Jacob on this side where it met the Mississippi River. And we are the city of hospitality, but I like to think of it a little different. I'd like to think of it as Plaquemine, where Southern charm meets Bayou bliss and the mighty, mighty miss. So I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have you all. I hope you'll have some good work. And I think it's a marvelous idea to have these meetings around where we get to see you all, we get to interact, and we get to learn what you do, which is very important to me personally, because I believe in what you all do. And where rivers meet the sea and everything else in between. We're not going to get any bigger or mightier than this one right here. So thank you for what you do and welcome, and make yourself at home. Hope you enjoy your stay.
Thank you, Mayor. President Dagan.
Again, thank y'all. We appreciate y'all coming down to Riverdale Parish, coming up, as we want to say. But we have a lot of rich history down here in Riverdale Parish, and as the mayor said, this year marks the 250th anniversary of the founding of the city of Plaquemine being founded. So in that significant history, kind of shows the history of other examples like Army, Navy, Marines. They're all 250 years this year in 1775. But we're very blessed to be along the Mississippi River, to have beautiful Atchafalaya base that just creates so much opportunity and the sportsmanship for Louisiana. Thank y'all for being here. I'm not going to take up much of your time. I know y'all have a long agenda. So we appreciate y'all being here. John Clark is our representative right here from Riverdale Parish. He is our economic development director as well as our environmental parish, and does a phenomenal job for us. So thank you for representing John.
Thank you, Mr. President. I learned this morning that President Nichols was proud of Nichols as well. So that's good to know. John, do you want to say anything?
I just want to say, reiterate everything our mayor said and our parish president said. This is very exciting, very exciting. I've been working with you guys for a long time. And I believe this is the first time we've ever had you all
last met, and then Jefferson Parish will be in the August timeframe. I think the clicker is coming my way. Okay, thank you. Looks like we're working, so that's good news. So first off, hopefully you all are aware that we do have a solicitation for project ideas open right now. We discussed a little bit about this on August 14th and changing the process a little bit, trying to get some action plan teams involved and maybe focusing the call for project ideas a little bit. So that happened not long after our August 14th meeting. The solicitation was open on October 1st and will close at 11:59 p.m. on November 30th. We will host a webinar on the 18th of November. It'll be just an opportunity to talk a little bit about the kind of tweak process. The process hasn't changed a lot. Mainly, the main changes have been that there's a little form out for folks to be able to submit their proposals to us with, and then the calendar or the timeline has been shifted a little bit to the calendar. So you should all have this, of course, in your packets and be able. This is available online, so you can check these things. So the next really important day is November 18th. We'll be having a webinar and an opportunity for folks to ask questions about the solicitation, and then November 30th, at which time the solicitation period will end. So John referenced this. I just want to say we had a very successful event just up the road in Brewley in West Baton Rouge Parish, just not 10 minutes from here. But you all are familiar with Atchafalaya National host one of our signature events this year is a battle event, and again, kind of in the theme of what we've been discussing really since I came on board is expanding out, getting out of the estuary, or the parts of the estuary a little more. So we're at Grand Valley Choctaw up in Brewley, back in Brewley to be more specific. We've had 51 paddlers. First time that John mentioned we were in the upper estuary. There are lots of new partnerships related to this, including fantastic and accommodating facility, Floyd's Marina. If you haven't been there, you should go. It's a neat place. It's beautiful. You can launch your boats there. You can have a adult beverage there, or not adult beverage if you prefer. And we were treated with watching football people executing in the coast once the event was over. So very picturesque and a great event. I do want to thank West Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, Cajun Outdoors, was a new partner that helped sponsor this event. Pepper's Pizzeria, and I'm going to forget somebody. I shouldn't have gone down and proud of naming names, but yeah, Sea Level, of course, was our signature sponsor as well. Queen Solutions 365, I will say that Nicole's husband, Paul, and Nikki's husband, I think he's not here, she's with the Louisiana Science Teachers Association meeting today, and her husband both provided some very good food and jambalaya hiking stores for the day. So it was a great event, and we're excited that it was a success, and look forward to branching out into other parts of the estuary for this event next year. So National Estuaries Week occurred toward the end of September. It was the 20th through the 27th, and we had a few events to help celebrate National Estuaries Week. The first was International Coastal Cleanup. We had almost 100 volunteers, 90 volunteers or so at this event. We picked up about 2 tons of trash, which was a record for that event. So this was in Chenier Caminada, Fuchon, Elmazon area. Again, it was a success. You can see the large group of volunteers. We followed that up the following Tuesday. That was on Saturday the 20th. The following Tuesday was our White Boot Gala. I know Dr. LaFleur will speak a little bit about that, but I'll just mention that it was a little bit of a new format. It was not a sit-down dinner that we have had typically in the past. I think it allowed for a little more networking and visiting, which some folks I think appreciated. It also allowed us to expand the number of folks that could be there for a bit. And we were able to raise a record nearly $22,000 to support the foundation, which of course in turn supports our program a little bit. So happy that it was a success as well. And then rounding out Estuaries Week, we hosted our annual Native Plant Giveaway. It was a great morning. Nichols was hosting cross-country meet, in fact, at the farm on the same day, so there were lots of folks there that perhaps wouldn't be there otherwise. A little cross-pollination amongst the students. And then one went, and then came in second. So that's good news. Anyway, we had over 300 visitors there, almost 20 plant species were given away, close to 1,000 flower shrubs and trees were distributed to citizens in the estuary to help produce need your feedback. We want your feedback. This management conference guides the program. You make the decisions about what we're doing and where we're headed. And so if you have an opportunity, pull your phone out and scan the QR code or go to our website, please, to find the survey and just spend a couple minutes, give us some feedback. It only takes less than 10 minutes. It's a pretty simple survey, but I'll tell you, we've only gotten 4 responses so far, so that's not good. So if you have an opportunity, please take a look at that and provide some feedback to us. It'll help us guide what we do today and, of course, in the future. Running through some of our kind of program focuses, want to touch on habitat first. Hopefully you saw at the table when you checked in, we've got a new native plant poster. It's a beautiful piece of art, in fact. It's also very educational, and it really highlights our native plants and the wildlife that depend on them. Kind of in keeping with the theme last year with the amphibian publication in the calendar. I'm also happy to announce our 2027 photograph calendar is out. So we have those for you here today. They're at the back table. Please pick up 1 or 2 or 3 or however many we're able to give you today. We don't have them all with us here, of course. But happy to announce that those are available today. And please spread the word there. But as I was mentioning earlier, the theme, of course, is taking on the native plant poster. And it's all about wildlife, native plants, and wildlife partners. Touching on basic species a bit, which Brazilian pepper tree, it's a little difficult to see photographs I recognize in this room, but Michael Massamy and team were down. This is a tree, it's a basic species. This one, we believe, is quite old. I think Michael told me that he didn't see this since about 2015 on Google Earth imagery, so it's likely much older than that. It was visible on Google Earth imagery that far back. But anyhow, they were there cutting this tree down, trying to rid it from Louisiana, rid it from Grand Isle. They were able to do a lot of chainsaw work on it, of course, and apply some herbicides, and they're not done yet. They can get back there and finish the job. But the key, as you all know, with invasive species is to get to them early and often. Happy to report that Michael and team think this is a single tree. Didn't see any propagules or every tree in the area, but they'll continue to monitor that. And if any of your seed, they will take care of those as well. So, moving on to parts of to the wildlife portion of our program. Just yesterday, well, let me back up. So Dr. Tim Blay is working on a project that's sponsored by us, by you all. It's basically a Head Start program for Diamondback terrapins. Terrapins are a species of concern in coastal Louisiana. It's lose habitat, we lose, of course, many of the numbers of this population. So the idea here is to collect eggs from either disturbed nests across our coast or from turtles that unfortunately have been killed on the road, hatch those out, raise those young to a year or more old, at which point they can be released back into the wild and have a much better chance of surviving with their release as an older age. Very similar to what's done with alligators, collecting eggs, raising those, at least a portion of those collected eggs back into the wild. Anyway, this is a program that will be in many of our schools across the Estuary, so school children will have a chance to actually raise these turtles and start them. But yesterday we were able to release about 20, and I think there's another 20 or so that will be say released or transported to the Aquatic Park. So the signage you see there is difficult to read, but you'll note that there's a partnership with Interested and the Aquarium to spread awareness and education about this Head Start program for the species. We've talked a lot about the Urban Native Breeds Project. I'm not really getting into the details of that, but I will mention that part of that project is the monitoring component. And so the results are in. This is a project where we install purple martin nesting habitats, one literally across the street from us right here at the lot park just there. There's one you may have seen if you drove from the north at Ridley High School. There's one in New Roads in Moss River Park on Coast Creek, up in Grand Isle as well. But from all the data collected from this project, we pledged 159 purple marks last year, 9 adults, 15 nestlings were banded with either federal bands or alphanumeric bands, and 2 trackers were placed on birds here in Plaquemine to help us understand where these birds spend their time, how they migrate, where they go. About 18 volunteers course, we continue Farm Fridays, I mentioned the plant giveaway, and not too long ago, we had a group of 10 or so Shell volunteers. They're helping us prepare the nursery for winter, which looks like it's coming pretty quickly. It's freezing this week, I think. So Matt actually had a scrambling a bit to get things ready for that weather event. Let's see. All right, so Steve and Andrew, our water quality team, had an opportunity to speak last week at the EPA National Source workshop that was held in Baton Rouge. I was able to speak there as well. It was a good event. It was good. I'm happy to report, I guess, that at least in the talks that I was able to see, I participated in one, Andrew and Steve as well. And there was a tremendous amount of interest in the work that we do in the National Estuary Program, the Home Sewage Assistance Program, which you all heard about, that really has been the focus of the water quality program to date. Just want to note as well, we talked about fish kills, I think this time last year, the November meeting, we were down in Blue Works, and some of the water quality sampling work that Erin Kiskaddon did, they observed on Bayou Falls, Bush Hill sampling station. It's mostly sunfish and not silver, I did ranch recently, right, Andrew? Bay anchovies. But anyway, just a reminder that if you see these, please report them to the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. If you need some help with that, you can let us know. We're happy to do so. Happy to report that we were the recipient of the Keep Louisiana Beautiful grant. This grant will go toward expanding the storm drain mural program. These are the one you see there is one that's in Tacoma. We're looking for locations now for new murals. So if you have something in mind, let us know. We're happy to work with you on that. We installed a litter getter just off of Nichols campus, a very uppermost headwaters of Bayou Falls. You can see this in the road. The interesting thing about this is basically a floating litter trap. An interesting thing about this, Osprey Initiatives, who is the company that we're working with on this, not only do they install it, but they maintain it. They collect litter that is collected by or even sort of categorize that litter, and it can lead you to what the sources are of that litter. So if they're collecting, 100 video cups every year, there's a 7-Eleven up the road. It's a pretty good idea. That's probably where a lot of that litter is coming from. So it's not just collecting and removing that from the environment, it's also pointing us towards potential solutions to reduce that. And then the green team's been active, averaging about 57 bags of litter picked up from Fuchon Beach, so that is continuing as we speak. Been out in the estuary a lot in terms of engagement. See the upper picture there, that's me with the PBO group in Baton Rouge. You see Nikki and Delana, we're at St. Francisville not too long ago talking to a group of teachers there about our program. We sponsored the Folklight Village, the Roo Fest. You see a couple of our folks there, the MLI, as we refer to them now, Emily and Emily, who helped us stable and get the word out about it up there. And of course, Ashley was there as well, talking about our native plant program and uses of native plants and native landscapes as well. Hopefully you notice there's been a little bit of an increase in digital media exposure, and social media in particular. You see a couple of examples of that there. And happy to also report on the Wetlands Radio project that's completed. You may have heard some of the vignettes that were produced there. There were 12 sort of short stories related to coastal issues in coastal Louisiana. Many of the folks in this room were actually interviewed or included in some of those here on WWNO. You can access those via our website, or the WWNO website as well. In education programs, we have sponsored an estuary field trip at the Bayou Country Children's Museum in Thibodeau. And so essentially if a teacher gets in touch with the museum and says, hey, I want to bring a group of children there, we want to check out the museum, but we also want to hear about estuaries and the estuary program. Nikki or one of us will be there to assist with that and again, talk about the things that we do there. Several of us were at Ocean Promotion just last week. About 1,600 students came by our booth and others at Ocean Promotion. There were 296 teachers in addition to the 1,600 students. It was 34 schools from 13 parishes. So it was a big event and a good opportunity for us to hopefully three locations of spars at the Alumni Grill, Thibodeau, and Bayou Light in Houma, and also at Portillo's in Thibodeau as well. So that's a pretty easy way to get the word out and keeps the children occupied as they're waiting for the meals. So happy to be part of that. We took the opportunity a couple of weeks ago, excuse me, to have a little staff in Richmond. So we spent the morning at LSU Center for River Studies over in Baton Rouge, and then we headed north to the very uppermost reach of the estuary, and were able to visit with, get a presentation from, and tour the whole river control structure, and then we began to spillway as well. So that was a good day. It was good for us to get up there and see the absolute headwaters of the estuary. In terms of upcoming events, November 14th will be, I'll be speaking with the Bayou Cultural Collaborators, so if you're interested in that or participating in those, please dial in for that. We'll be talking about BTNEP's preservation of place and personality throughout the estuary. I mentioned November 18th, the solicitation closes. Christmasburg count on January 3rd. We'll have another paddle event. We're calling it a mini paddle event, inviting foods associated with the City of Thibodeau St. Patrick's Day celebration. And then on April 18th will be one of our next signature events, inviting foods cleanup. Just to highlight a few projects and some of the work that's being done in specifically this part of the estuary. I mentioned the Purple Mark Conservation Project, Urban Native Greens Project already. The Swallowtail Kite Project, I wanted to put this on here because, of course, they use habitats not too far from here, but also to tease a little bit that we're going to have Dr. Coulson come to us at our meeting in February to talk to us about this project. It's really an interesting project about a really interesting animal, so I'm looking forward to that. Part of the water quality program, we've got the Upper Barataria-Terrebonne National Education Project that they with LSU hosted several forums related to water quality issues as part of the basin, and then a couple of invasive species projects that are going on related to coral artesia. And that last one is a mouthful, but it's biological control agents for the emerald ash borer within the Barataria-Terrebonne National Estuary program. So those are some things that are going on specifically in this part of the region. And then lastly, I'll round this out. Nikki, our education engagement coordinator, was at a Sea Grant event for teachers and so forth, and she was able to meet this lady, Sarah Gillery, who's a teacher, again, just up the road at River High School, who wrote a book, and we were hoping to have her come and speak to us about the book. She was needed in school, but was not able to do that. So she recorded a short video, so if you'll indulge me, we'll listen to this video, and then I will turn it back over to Dr. Plaquemine. So, go to Nikki. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Hillary, and I'm the author of Nowhere Better Than Here, which is a middle grade novel set in South Louisiana that deals with flooding and coastal erosion. I always wanted to write a coastal erosion book, I think because it's not something that I feel a lot of people know about, especially not outside of the state of Louisiana, but even inside the state of Louisiana. I feel like, especially young people, it's just not something that we talk a lot about or talk enough about. So I wanted to write a coastal erosion book, but I didn't really know how to get in. So coastal erosion has been happening for a very long time. And with a story, you have to have something that starts the story and exciting things. And I didn't really know how to get into that story. I knew I was going to be writing a book with a young adult in there. Originally, the book was a young adult story, so my character was 17. And so what happens that makes this character suddenly aware of the coastal erosion that really has been around in their whole life? And then in 2016, flood happened here in South Louisiana. And if y'all all remember the 2016 flood, I'm sure it just rained. I went home from teaching one day, and it was raining, and then I didn't go back to school for a week. So we were very lucky. My home did not flood, our school did not flood. A lot of my colleagues, their homes flooded. I remember our baseball team going and helping a teacher at her house because, as you probably remember, it was very difficult to find people to help with the homes because they were so busy. There were so many homes that had flooded. And I have a student from another district And so all of that, I'm going to use all of that in the story. So that was my end. The 2016 flood really was my inspiration and my end into the story. And so I wrote the story, starting with a flood that was just a regular rainstorm, really, that turned into this catastrophic event. And originally the story was young adult, and so my character was 17. And I just kind of had some issues with the story because I very much wanted it to be a story about a girl who doesn't want to leave home. Because this is my love letter to Louisiana, I feel like. We talk a lot about these natural disasters, floods, hurricanes, whatever. We make the news for these things, and we make the news, I think, in a lot of times for these horrific things, and not as many people know about what happened after that community. So very much I wanted this to be a story about the Louisiana people and how they come together and help one another, but also the loss of some of that community that is happening with coastal erosion. So the character is 17, but she's going to go to college, and so it didn't really fit, and my agent read it, and she said, that's because this is middle grade. And I had never thought about writing a middle grade novel. I was a young book writer, and I was a little daunted by writing a middle grade novel because it was something so very different from what I was used to, but I love the challenge. And so I rewrote the book as middle grade, and it was exactly what the story needed, because this is a character who loves her hometown and it doesn't want to leave. And so it's sort of about her hometown leaving her, and how we deal with that, and how we hold on to our community and our family, and how we help one another, and there's more than one way to do that. So I fell in love with writing middle grade, and I very much fell in love with Jillian, who is the main character in this story. I was very lucky that it earned 4-star reviews, which most people outside publishing don't know a lot about that, but that just means that it was critically accepted, I guess. It won a couple of awards, and it was chosen for the National Book Festival book to represent Louisiana, which was the highest honor for me to write a book, sort of like a love letter to this state, and then to be chosen by the state to represent it at the National Book Festival. So I've been very lucky that people have been talking about Nowhere Better Than Here. I hope they continue to do so. I think this story is a really important one to tell, and it's about resiliency and community and stories and how all of those things are so important to us. So thank you so much for asking me to speak with y'all. Thank you for those of you who have read the book and loved the book. And for those of you who haven't, I hope you check it out.
Sounds like a really good book. You want to get it? I know. You like it? Check it out. Yeah. Cool. Are there any questions for our director? I mean, I know you guys are busy, but whenever I see it all put together in one presentation, like y'all are really busy.
You're doing a lot of great work, man. That's fantastic.
Any questions? Good. Okay, we're going to move on over now to our foundation report and our colleague and good friend, Dr. Gary Blanchard.
Thanks, Dr. Fontenot. Just wanted to make sure and say thanks to everyone who was at the White Mountain Gala and a lot of people that are at the table were here. I also especially wanted to thank the staff of BTNEP and the staff that showed up, the staff that also helped plan that. BTNEP helped the plan, but we had a lot of help from BTNEP staff, and we appreciate that. So the staff were there, the BTNEP was there, a lot of stakeholders were there. On a day like this, we had a whole lot of details and a little bit of fellowship, and on a day like that, at the White Mountain Gala, we had a whole lot of fellowship and a little bit of details. And sometimes it's nice to turn the tables around that way. You know, Bryn said that we had kind of a record-breaking year, and he was right. We took in really $32,000, so that's what we took in. We did have to pay for the program itself, which was about $9,000. So my total take at the end of it all was $22,000. So that's more than we've ever done before. So we appreciate that support. The other thing I wanted to say was I do appreciate being here in Liverpool Parish and the town of Plaquemine. You know, like John was talking about, a lot of times we think does start way up here at Morganza, and it mostly flows down, but of course, some of the work of my colleague, Dr. Fontenot, it helps to remind us that, there is exchange from the bottom up as well, like blue crabs, even the tide coming up. And so, this kind of activity going both ways reminds us of the importance of being up here on this side of the estuary. But it also gave me the opportunity to drive through one of my favorite swamps, and that is the swamp around the airport. And that's always a reminder to me that there's still a lot of work to do in our estuary. I love Lake Barrett, and it's so beautiful that I don't like to tell a lot of people about it because I like to keep it a secret. But on the other hand, just east of the airport, there's this dead forest that hurts my feelings. Here we are in the estuary. We're part of the Clean Water Act, and that's some of what we're trying to avoid, dead forests in our estuary. And so I think it's nice being able to come all the way up here to remind us about the beauty of our estuary, but also that we still have work to do. That's it from the Estuary Foundation. Thanks. Oh, Chris, question?
Yes, it's a long time off for the White Boots Gala for next year. So how can a person support BTNEP and the foundation in between now and then?
Well, right now is a good time to brainstorm. You could help us plan the whole thing. We want to get bigger and better all the time, but we also don't want to get so big that we lose the heart of that. So we're always taking donations. And I did want to mention that, how is that money used? Like right now, it's a good reminder to say how we use that money. We help support the paddle trip that just happened recently, the Bayou Cruise cleanup, the beach cleanup, where the BTNEP is helping to support the lunch that we're going to have today. That's where that money goes to. And we have some stakeholders like our friends at the national park. They're not here today probably because of the government shutdown. But we help support a educational program that they do. And because the money is in the foundation, that's still work. The people that are going out and teaching educational programs about the estuary, they're still doing that. Even though the government is shut down, it's working because they are being paid by us. And so the Estuary Foundation kind of works as a safety net that way. Thanks, Chris.
All right, thank you, Dr. LeBlanc. I'm going to introduce our first speaker for today, Ms. Heather Blanchard. She is the Vice President of the Friends of the Lock, which is the Plaquemine Lock State Historic Site. And I know when I was in graduate school, I would travel multiple times from LSU through Plaquemine, down to their park, and along with a little bit of work. And every time I came through Plaquemine, I would look at that lock. And it was just intriguing, like, wow, that's connected to the Mississippi. And so I'm really excited to hear about this project, or about this feature. And thank you.
hear that?
That's where we go up and down. Okay? This is just a map of, there's a lot of cool maps. Plaquemine, in the mid-1800s before Lock was built. Okay, so Plaquemine was closed in 1968. You know, after the Civil War, remember? They've been talking about that, and then a lot of fighting and that kind of stuff. So we got to put on that burner. But the problems continued after it was closed because there was no longer, the Mississippi River was no longer coming into the bayou. There was no longer fresh water. It was no longer scouring the basin and clearing obstructions. And so what happened? The bayou started getting shallow and blocked, just like Bayou Plaquemine had. And so it was harder, more expensive to export things, and you couldn't get around navigating to it. So in 1880, there was a concerted effort with Congress, the Mississippi River Commission, and the Army Corps. It was really cool to read an old document describing how it all came out. I will not make you hear all that. So they started researching and doing planning and digging. They had to do a lot of prep work before they could. But I want you to notice, they did plans, but they were able to get something done way more than we've been able to do with roots. Here is, we had a local historian, Tony Fammer, who died, I'm not sure how long ago, but he's written several publications about River Parish and the city of Plaquemine. And I have several photos, hopefully I've credited them all. This is an example of late 1800s, this is before the law was built. So the construction of the Plaquemine law, 24 years, it was a major, major deal. Not to put you through that either. There's tons of stuff you can learn at our website, talking to Dan, and go to the museum. Stan Richardson has been at the museum, either employed by the state or the parish for 24 years, and I don't think anyone else in the world knows more than him. He can tell you way more than I can. So anyway, 24 years building all kinds of problems, and he has pictures to show on. This is another 1800s. I think that might be when they started digging things. Looks like when they started digging, huh?
That's a capacity. That's 1927 flood.
That's the late 1800s. But maybe we're wrong. Okay. This was here, they were building here, right? The lock chamber. Like I said, all kinds of things they had to. All kinds of things slow the process down. So, the big deal is here. Between 1909 and 1961, the Plaquemine line was a big deal. It was an economic engine for 52 years. And when we look at Plaquemine now, I transplanted here 20 years ago. It is hard to imagine that open and in use, and I say in use, the site, the Plaquemine State Historic Site in use. This is just, you can get all this from our website, ecologist.org or Plaquemine State Historic Site. It started off with a newsletter over 5 years. I have a book this day of all the letters he wrote and the campaign he wrote. He was not popular. Industry here wanted an interstate coming through here. So they were really happy to do what the state did, which is just tear it down. But he was tricky and he got us on the National Register. That saved us. Well, that saved the structure. So over the next 5 years, the lot site was transformed into a state historic site. I think that was the first museum design. This year is the next museum redesign, and it is sparkling. It's not faded like the school TV, the school educational videos you would watch. That's what it was like walking into 1978. So the 1990s through 2011, that's when the state budget kept cutting and kept cutting. And in 2011, the state was ready to shut it down completely. And they did. Actually, that let go of Stan Richardson, that you really talked about, and knows everything in the museum. He was let go for 2 weeks. The parish got together with Ms. Joyce there, the new veteran's wife, who also owned the together. She and a group of most people in their 80s, they formed the Friends of the Law. And so between the parish, the Friends of the Law, and the city, they formed a CEA with the state. So the parish has its responsibilities, the city has its responsibilities, the state owns the property and they like us to do the stuff to keep it open. It's in our best interest. So we all have our things. So but they kept cutting. So we organized. Now I'm telling you, they organized. I came on board when the first original person died in, I think, 2017, and she was so nice. These were some good actors. That's who we are. That's a lot. So this is part of our mission, okay? And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I really like, but I was asked to talk about the history, the historical significance. So our job is to advocate for the law, to promote use of the law locally and through tourism. We want to ensure the stability of the law. We can get it on what exactly that means. I don't think that we are supposed to ensure the stability of the structure, but if we aren't involved, nobody else is that interested. So I'll explain how we kind of temporarily became general contractors to make that happen. We help with educational and other programming, and this is the kind of education program I want to do. But so far, we've done field trips, we've had events, music, we have the Big Six. I think is that associated with Auburn or BTNEP? The Minis are the Big Six people. So we try to get more community involved in it. We're just a fundraiser, which we do a lot more. Recruit and organize volunteers, encourage endowments and membership. So this is stuff. So 23 to 25, we got an unprecedented amount of money because heretofore we have basically gotten nothing from the state, or maybe like a couple of coins in the last 3 years. So we got a lot of money, and we do a lot of stuff. And if the building is over 100 years, I mean, you don't have to fix it. And the longer you wait, the longer you got to fix. So we waterproof and repair leaks for several months. Over and over. Upgrade electrical, upgrade AC, we get all of this on the website. So we did a whole lot of stuff. The part I really love is the new visitor experience. Because that is inspiring, and it's not like walking into your middle school class and watching a faded video. Still stuff to do. There's always going to be stuff to do. We're always going to have a list. And that's part of what we do at Friends of the Law. So we keep that list going. We update it. If we don't update, people don't know. The people who are in charge and who have the authority to change things, they don't know. So we're kind of like a Across it is right over here, the waterfront park, and across our parking lot is the Riverville Museum. And you, hopefully, if y'all didn't see it, you'll drive by and you'll see the historic St. John Catholic Church. It's just really lovely. So we are poised to get a lot more visitors here. But right now, you go into the lot, which is fantastic museum, you walk out, and you have over 8 acres of sterile turf grass, frequently mowed and full sun. Who wants to go out there? None? No. So, going back to the mission here, to focus public attention on the lot, stimulate the use of the lot, and develop educational programs. You've already started for us. Thank you. We want to plant, I'm going to get there, but we want to plant a bunch of names. We have to do that within what the parish and the city want. We have to consider the views, but we want people to get outside, and we're going to use that as an opportunity for a lot of educational programs. These are our objectives. We're going to enhance the visitor experience and aesthetic programs. We're going to add pockets of shade using regionally native plants, striving for an ecologically rich, biodiverse landscape that can pollinate humans. I'm not going to do all that, y'all can do. But educational content, signage, QR codes that would go to plant identifications, like that fantastic poster. Thank you guys. I know how much we did that will. And we're also going to, they can also link to the historical, edible and additional uses of the plants, the historical, ecological relevance, and they will invite that back. We will invite that back. And also, we don't have any natural areas in Plaquemine unless you have access to a hunting camp or live down the bayou and hunting up on home down the water. There is a ballpark that's really pretty that they recently planted some native plants. That is still not a natural area. There is nowhere, unless you have access to the swamps, especially if you live in your house, there is just nothing. When I went to LSU, at least I could go to like City Park, or I could go and find some trees. We don't have that, and it's really sad. So we want that. We have to develop a big comprehensive plan that will address how to make that happen. We started a bunch of stuff, realized we had to back off. The mayor has one vision. There is no vision. There is no ability to see the lot because we have 50-year-old creek roads in front of it. So we're having to sit back and figure out how best to accomplish this, and we are working on funding a good strategic plan, and we have a lot of partners that are interested. I say partners, supporters, but they're going to become partners. A lot of collaboration. I know native planting too. So, phase 1. So, acknowledging the fact that we do not have a comprehensive plan, we're going to still call this phase 1. Swamp fly native landscapers, I think they did some work for BTNEP. I don't know, swamp fly. Anyway, they're a great native landscape company, and they have kindly drawn up multiple proposals. They are not architects, they are not drawing plans, but they have drawn up proposals that include plant palettes and some historical information that will include an educational program, but based on budgets, based on different input, it kept changing where we're going to do it. So we finally decided, and finally the board and all the powers said, okay, we're going to get 18,000. So that is going to come phase 1. And it's okay, the rest of the things, the rest of the plan, Lincoln Klein. So this, I wanted some shade. The city wants to block this gate over here because some four-wheel automobiles, etc., think that that's a way to drive onto our historic property. It is not. It is not. So we've got the native plants here. I asked for host plants. I asked for seasonal color. These are going to be tulip poplars. Also, I think have to do all this with you. You know, everybody needs to be happy and they can see all the things they want to see. So, tulip poplars, understory shrubs, we have weedberry, Turk's cat, maybe buckbush, I'm not remembering it all. We have carrots underneath the soft landings. Okay, they're going to provide a Nobody's gonna be leaving you there. And I'm gonna get help with volunteers to help maintain this. Part of all this is we've done any native landscaping they say, well, that is eventually true. But it is not true in the beginning. And a conventional gardener does not know what's a weed, what's the desirable native weed. The rule of three. The first year, they sleep. The second, they creep. The third, they leave. So this is going to be an educational opportunity for gardeners, a way to bring more people interested in planting natives. And then when they see the wildlife, and I think I was telling Brandon, I'm not going to care what I planted. She's like, okay, whatever, she's so crazy. Native plant, full, keep going. But once he started, now he tells me about which hummingbirds are where. He tells me about the songbirds and what kind of particular, and that triggers you to start fighting. He tells me about the butterflies flying in his face because he works from home. Tricky, but it happens. Okay? So, we have all these interests, and now we're going to add native flora and fauna. So that's my goal. I'll be president next year. I don't get to decide everything, but I can talk about it. And I have been talking, and I'm getting letters. I'm requesting letters of support, which is one way to start. I'm involved in several of the native plans, eco-friendly organizations, Louisiana Native Plant Society, LSU Hilltop, Acadiana Native Plant Project. I talked with Brian early at Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, and he has put together a few non-familiar website. All stuff about ecoregions, all stuff about what historically grows here and there. A great, expansive native plant database that you really big screen to get really scrolling around. One more thing I want to show you, and then I'm going to stop. I don't have a computer in front of me to watch the which slide is on.
And I'm going to leave these here, and y'all can take them.
Who knows what this is? Anybody have one of these? You do too? Dan is going to get one, because I'm going to go do all the work. I have one. I'm going to have one. And basically, I just realized I'm planting all this stuff as I learn natives, and I'm not plant where, I'm not taking over the pool, this kind of thing. It was a deep dive. I've always liked to garden, I've always liked to play in the woods, but learning native plants has just been, it's been a very immersive experience for me. So, this site and plenty other places are going to be certified, Louisiana certified habitats. You can get this. It's through the Louisiana Native Plant Society. It just shows that you're growing for habitat. You don't have to have a completely native yard. Roundup is not encouraged, but if you have a spouse who uses it, that doesn't mean you're not growing for habitat. You can get this and display it in your yard. It helps other people know what's going on, might be interested in it. You can do it with as little as 25 native species. I got the goal for the right now line, 75. And it's either like 25% or 75%. So honestly, in an apartment with a decent sized patio, you can develop a certified habitat. So this sign at the lock and anywhere else, the municipalities will let me develop a garden. This is a goal. And if you guys garden and you have any plants, you can do it too. Always ask me, email me, Facebook me. I can give you websites, but also I have pamphlets here that say certified your habitat and tell you how to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It was a great presentation. I'd love to see how they plan something that's yours. Do you have any questions for him?
Or for Dan.
Already.
Any questions or you tired? Having a long one. Okay, well afterwards, if you have scientific, historical questions, ask Dan and ask Stan at the museum. If you have native plant questions, I'm in your.
Thank you.
Thank you. So our next speaker is Caroline Byrne. Happy to have her here. She is the Executive Director of the Atchafalaya National
nice overview of the types of heritage areas that are out there. So, Cane River, which is a little bit hard to see, National Heritage Area is up in Natchitoches. They're the Louisiana National Heritage Area. They are the oldest settlement in the Louisiana Purchase. Blue Ridge National Heritage Area has a music story, looking for Lincoln as our president. This black one is Motor Cities up in Detroit, talking about auto heritage. So we kind of run the gamut with, the historic resources, the auto heritage, the industrial heritage, and just natural heritage. Congress has designated over 60 national heritage areas since 1984. This is a bit of a dated map with our reauthorization of 50 more years of kind of programming. Back in 2023, we added a handful of heritage areas, so it just kind of gives you a look at where we are and where we're not, and kind of a good look at how many of us are out there. And I just include this slide just to kind of show what we all do as part of the National Heritage Area system. So all of our programs are going to want to support that sustainable economic development. Our programs improve quality of life. Typically, we do a lot of recreation stuff and outdoor and cleanups. And then community engagement and pride and place. So ultimately, heritage areas are lived-in landscapes. We're programmed with the National Park Service, so while the area is designated, I'm not allowed to own land or equipment. That's how it is unique. Our cultures are dynamic, they're living. You can go and experience them, not just in a museum, which has its place, but it kind of makes us unique. Specifically, our goals are to enhance the interpretation of key stories, which I'll talk about in a moment, to support cultural is our water heritage trail. So this actually came about during the 2011 flood. For lack of a better word, our first executive director was flooded with calls about people wanting to know what it was like in the organic spillway. It wasn't open, they wanted pictures, they wanted videos, and they were calling our office about it. So because of that, does anybody know how many times the organic spillway was open? Twice. Do you know when it was open the first time? You can give me a decade, I'm not going to give you either.
72.
73. Very good. I brought full flags to see me after for participation. So I kind of say all that just to give you a sense of what you'll find at these signs. So our water heritage trail is a driving tour, and you'll find signs like this. I conveniently put the clock in the block, so I will plug it in. Go to the block, we just input a new sign there, so it's brand spanking. And you're going to see information about the natural history of the area, hydrologic history, we work with USGS on that information, local cultural history. Sometimes I'll have information on how the waterway was used, how the waterway is currently used. So you can go to the Plaquemine block and see that. And I believe you also mentioned the new block in Port Allen. It's not there anymore. We also have a sign there. So these have got water features. They're along the Atchafalaya National River. They're at Older Control Complex. So it kind of runs the gamut of natural resources and man-made resources as it relates to our water story. We also have a digital component. So if you go to waterheritage.atchafalaya.org, we've got an interactive map where you can click on the site and click through, and it'll bring you to the information that you'll find on the sign. It'll also give you information if you're a teacher or a parent. If you're a teacher or a parent and you want to get kids out, one of these places, I'm going to stop pushing my luck. It'll give you information about the site itself. What does parking look like? Can I paddle there? Is there a boat launch? Is there a fee associated? Is there a museum there? So it's a good resource if you want to kind of plan before you go. We also try to put on there whether or not the sign is closed or if you're doing work there. We've got a few items, a couple work on the bridge, took a few, so it's just kind of a good reference so you're not stuck like, hey, we're not here anymore. So that's one of our biggest projects. When I came on in 2020, they said, Caroline, here's money, go make a grant program. So it's evolved a little bit every year. It's kind of kept the same, kind of a competitive program and a non-competitive program. So our legacy grant program is our competitive grant program. Now, because we're funded by the National Park Service, we are required to report a 1-to-1 match, and we have our grants the same thing. So we are reimbursable, and we require a 1-to-1 match. If you have a $2,000 project, you have to spend the $2,000 before I can pay you up to $1,000, basically. Our legacy grant program goes before a panel. It's more competitive, so we'll have a panel. It's been 5 people in the past from Main Street, visit the arts, get parks. They'll grade it with a number, and then we'll talk about kind of how those grants are chosen. So we've got nature trails, water paddle trail signage. We help with the visitor reinterpretation. The image all the way on your right is we gave money to Baton Rouge to bring in the Louisiana Bowl Cruise so that people that attended that festival could actually hold and learn more about the rub boards and the teeth bears and the fiddles. So that was a really cool project. The one up you can see all the way on the left in the bottom left corner, one of my favorites. We worked with Louisiana Swamp Base to develop floating campsites. So they worked with the Boy Scouts on their high adventure trek. It's been 5 days, I believe, on a 60-something mile paddle. And one of the nicest things about these floating campsites, they're great facilities. They also do sunset cruises, and we're getting into Christmas territory. Papa Noel will show up and read stories to the kids in the basin. Those are really great ways to get people out into the swamp, where if you're like me and you've never paddled before 2020, it's a really accessible way to kind of dip your toe in the water. And then again, I'll plug past Plaquemine Lot. We helped fund one of the model remodel and one of their videos, and then we've also done some digital oral history projects. Our celebration grant program that's kind of the argument we made to kind of help vitalize, revitalize, uplift, and empower these rural areas. And this program has been fairly successful. We helped get over $2 million awarded in transportation alternative projects. Those were bike and pedestrian, a lot of sidewalk projects, getting people in rural communities to parks or access points to the waterways, or even from school to grocery store. We helped secure $200,000 for Scotlandville Plaza in that area as a community gathering space for that area. We've also done walking audits in Franklin, Medallion, and Baldwin. We've done a crosswalk demonstration in Franklin. I know I'm missing some other ones that we've done, but we're kind of looking forward in the future. I talked to the mayor of Plaquemine about it a little bit. We're going to bring in somebody to help our downtown businesses, as it's explained to me, basically feng shui their space, to encourage people to come in and buy products, to help with marketing, so it kind of runs the gamut a little bit. And this is not an exhaustive list, but just kind of gives you an idea of who we're working with in a more meaningful partnership way. So all of our community empowerment would not be possible without the OTD, the LSU Ag Center, and CPEX all working with us. Atchafalaya Swamp Base is a huge partner, and then just listed a few more. Again, not exhaustive. I like working with people. So I've told you a little bit about who we are and what we've done, but what's coming up? What is coming at you? Well, next year we're celebrating 20 years of the Heritage Area, 20 years of our designation. That's a really big deal for us. It's also the year of outdoors for the office of tourism. So it kind of aligns really nicely for us. People come up all the time and see our water heritage trail, for example, and say, oh, is this a paddle trail? No, it's really not. It's driving trail. So one thing we're going to be doing is we're working with a lot of our partners to develop an ArcGIS map that has all of the paddle trails, all of the boat launches, the kayak launches, the hiking trails. And we're going to release that. That way when people come to us and ask us, I want to go paddle, where can I go paddle? I can just send you to a resource. We're also opening a new grant. So any of you guys are in the Heritage area, listen up, maybe something that you're interested in. We are opening our Atchafalaya Wild grant on January 1st. It's going to be open until the 31st, which I know sounds like a tight timeline. The application is already posted. I promise it's not difficult. If you need help, I will have my contact information. Please call me. It's going to work like our other grants in the past. It's going to require a one-on-one match. It's going to be reimbursable. And it's going to be competitive. And since it's the year of outdoors, and really one of our big stories is our water heritage and our kind of recreation amenities, we're looking to fund outdoor projects. If you've got a land, water, environmental conservation, or education project, or outdoor recreation, if you need trail signage, if you need a trail map, if you need a kayak launch, if you want to do sediment mapping, that's what we're looking for. So I will be around at lunch to discuss further. It's also all on our website, on our grant page, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Looking a little bit even further, and I promise I'm almost done. 2027 is the centennial of the flood of 1927. So we're going to be doing some markers, kind of coinciding with our water heritage trail. We're also going to be probably funding some speaker series. So just a little something for you to look out. If you've kind of heard whispering, shoot me an email, let me know what you guys are doing, so we can promote it on our end or see how we can partner. Fun fact, this is from Morgan City, where I'm from. And then if you're a teacher, you're looking for something for kids to do, these are just kind of some other resources that we offer. We've got coloring sheets, coloring books. Uniquely, Louisiana has all the education resources that are under the purview of the Lieutenant Governor. We've got field trips. If you've got people coming in and you want something that they can pack and fly with, we've got postcards. Or if you want to send people postcards, we can give you those. So this is kind of all the other tertiary stuff that we also offer. So that's what I've got. Thank y'all for having me. Happy to take questions or talk more outreach.
Thank you, Caroline. Any questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Captain Jake Stahl with Marine Expertise. I represent Coastal Marine Operators, CAMO, which is pipelines. On November 19th, 2020, I met an LSU professor, Dr. Robert Twilley. Was he part of your group?
So we work with Dr. Twilley on quite a few other projects. specifically with the Atchafalaya Air program. So Brian knows us very well. That's kind of who we work with Dr. Flynn. So he's familiar with us and kind of what we do. And
Yeah, he had mentioned he was involved with that, and I was going into other projects. But one of the things we were talking to him about is the fact that the U.S. Coast Guard required, navigational areas to be marked on charts and areas, put out information about where there's pipelines, if they're in water, they could be buried or protected. But if it's not a navigational waterway, they could be laying on the surface, they could be just laying under the water. And we were recommending that, we were talking about a walking audit.
okay.
What did that entail?
I would probably know a little bit more about the project. I'm a part though. You can reach out to me and we can talk more about that. Justin LeBlanc actually here too. He's the previous executive director. And I say that because he's kind of where 1.5 people are here right now. So that would be something that we could all kind of discuss and see what that looks like. A lot more for y'all.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Rebecca Church, Louisiana Wildlife Federation. Could you explain briefly how the area, I've seen signs, I've seen like across the Pacific River that seems like it's not exactly forming the basin. So how do y'all determine that?
Yes, great question. I'm in the state, so a lot of, I'm thinking you're thinking the Baton Rouge. East Baton Rouge comes up, Ascension comes up, political. Whenever, I should say, whenever we were being designated, someone was gonna kill the bill if we did not include some action. So, now, we do say, Baton Rouge and Lafayette are really good gateways for us. They're tourism gateways. They're a good way to get people. So I had the Baton Rouge Zoo up there. Their whole North American section is going to be Atchafalaya and Cassagne. I'd be an idiot to not be involved in something like that, even if it's not touching the sea. Ascension, we've got kind of on the other side of the Mississippi River in Donaldsonville, where Bayou Rouge starts. So there is still good arguments, but I mean, some of the stuff that you can be like, one of these things is not like the other. It's obvious.
You have any questions or comments? All right, thank you. All right,
Thanks. Our next speaker is going to be Erin Kiskaddon, who works with the Water Institute, to talk with us about monitoring projects in the Barataria-Terrebonne. Thank you, Erin.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, sorry if I look a little tired. We have been out in the field for the past month or so. We got one more day tomorrow. But we're here to chat a little bit about some activities that are going on in our estuaries. I want to really thank BTNEP for inviting us, giving us this opportunity to share what we're doing, make some connections, so that if y'all see us out in the water, please give us a wave, offer us some hot beverages when it's cold. Thank goodness we're not going out next week with this next cold front. And if it's hot, we always appreciate some ice. So, all right, I am giving a presentation today on behalf of my colleague David Reeves. David Reeves works at NOAA. Due to the current government shutdown, he is not able to attend, although I have been given full permission to throw him under the bus fully. So, if there's anything I say today that you don't like, please direct all of your criticisms to him. Thank you. All right. All right, before I get started, I really wanted to share that this work is not done in a silo. This work that I'm going to talk about today is huge, and we have a huge number of partners. None of this could be done without this partnership between state, federal, private, independent, all these organizations, with folks not even listed on the slide, on other associated projects. So really just wanted to thank everybody that we work with for making this work possible. Importantly, I want to really thank the landowners of Louisiana who have allowed us, granted us permission to be on their lands. If we did not have that permission, none of this could be done. Louisiana is a wonderful patchwork of land ownership And I would be remiss to not acknowledge and thank them for allowing us on their lands and for being really invested in the science of our estuaries. And I'll say this funding is, these projects are funded through Deepwater Horizon funding, Louisiana Trustee Implementation Group. All right, I do not need to berate y'all about Deepwater Horizon oil spill event. I am 100% sure that you guys must know something about it. That happened back in 2010. After that historic event, of course, there was a damage assessment and environmental impact statement that shortly came after. Louisiana was awarded a large sum of money to restore for the injury of that spill. And a large amount of that is really dedicated to what is called monitoring and adaptive management. This is how we better understand how the work that's being done is actually serving to restore for the injury that occurred. If we don't monitor and adapt that way that we do things, we will never restore the ecosystems of this state. All right, and on that similar vein, I don't think anybody would embark on a marathon without first better understanding where y'all stand health-wise before you embark on that marathon, right? You want to go to the doctor, see what your blood pressure is doing, how your muscles are feeling, before you put yourself through something as vigorous as a marathon. That's what a lot of these projects are really giving us, a real baseline. So the Louisiana Trustee Implementation Group acknowledges there's a lot of different restoration types going on in the state. One of them is really focused on habitat restoration, marsh restoration. And so the folks that are stewards of this money really want to better understand how does that restoration, again, benefit these injured resources at an ecosystem level. How do we make sure that these restoration projects, habitat restoration projects, directly are improving our production of our fisheries, the integrity of our ecosystems, and things of that nature. But as many of y'all know, our systems are complicated. Our estuaries are murky in many ways that we don't yet fully understand. There are really, really big data gaps, and it's really important for us to fill those data gaps to, again, assess where we're at before we get a tremendous amount of habitat restoration underway in the next decade, right? And so part of the mission of monitoring and adaptive management is to fill those knowledge gaps, like I said, and we're here to talk about food webs, productivity, and how we build better habitat restoration projects to enhance these things. All right, I'm going to be talking about two major projects today. These are just two of many other projects that we work on. These two are just the biggest and most exciting in my opinion. The first one is all about lower trophic level organisms. So like, what is a trophic level? What do I mean when I say lower trophic levels? This is all of the bugs and delicious detritus and organisms that are really spurring productivity all the way up to the big red drum that lands on your plate at a restaurant. So we really want to understand how the base of our food web is operating. The other project here is all about what is eating all those lower trophic level organisms. And these are what we'll call nectin. Nectin are mobile aquatic fishes and invertebrates that are being fueled by lower trophic level organisms. And in this project, we're interested in, not only in the natural areas, but how are the restoration projects themselves influencing productivity and success of those critters. Okay, so I'm going to first start this talking about our lower trophic level project. This project is something near and dear to my heart. When I first moved to Louisiana, this is something that was just a whisper 10 years ago. People thought, wow, we don't really understand why fisheries production might be lower, higher, but the more we measure these fish, there's something missing in this equation. And more we see that these estuaries are driven from the bottom up, from for this project, we are really interested in understanding what is that prey base. Before we went and collected any more data, we wanted to better understand what data existed. We first did a huge data survey and gap analysis to figure out what kind of knowledge is already there. Do we need to collect more data? Turns out we absolutely do. All of the data is old, although very interesting, but does it really reflect the current state of our estuaries? And so in that project, we identified these gaps and we developed a monitoring program that would collect new data. And again, this project, moreover, is one that would not be possible without a huge number of partnerships. Now, this web logo should give you a little bit of an idea of the complexity of how do you herd a number of agencies, university partners, all collecting data all at the same time towards one big goal. All right, so just to give you a pretty high-level overview of what this project entails, for the lower traffic level project, we are operating in Barataria only, not in Terrebonne. We have a mission across the entire salinity gradient of the estuary to service 10 stations in natural swamp wetland areas, and we are collecting data for the next 3 years, this year included, so 2026, 2027, 2025, 2026, and 2027. We will be out there every month and 4 times a year to do all of this work. Now, again, we are doing this on a couple different time scales depending on the critters that we are monitoring. We will be out there monthly to look at water column critters. These guys are phytoplankton, zooplankton, the nutrients, and all of the environmental parameters that control them. Now, again, we have lots of partners in this work, and this is a ton of work. It's about 3 days every month to get all these data points. And I will want to emphasize that this is, on the phytoplankton side, is not just chlorophyll. We have really robust chlorophyll monitoring programs that are in existence today. Chlorophyll can't give you the whole story. We are interested in excited about the partnerships that we are having here, the students that are being supported by this work, and we're really excited to see what kind of data we can get out of this project. And I will just highlight again, cat herding is not in my job description, but it is something that I do a lot. We have a number of projects. We have 9 principal investigators all working together. Getting everybody on the same page is challenging, but it's super rewarding experience. You know, none of this work would be possible without them. It is an unprecedented study, being able to link the entire lower trophic level food web in one contiguous data set, across all of the critters going on in our estuary. So this is really important. And now I'm going to transition away from the muddy benthos into something that y'all might be more familiar with. These are your shrimp and your flounders and your speckled trout and your red drum. So the next project that I'm going to talk about, we'll refer to as our next gen project. This project is really targeted at better understanding restoration. You know, you always say, oh, we're restoring habitat, and that's going to, benefit the fish. How do you know? There's been some studies, a couple, singular project studies, but there has never been something comprehensive, something that you can take across a whole salinity regime, across, multiple decades of restoration that Louisiana has experienced, right? So that's what we're doing here. All in the hopes that we can make better habitat for these aquatic organisms to actually increase productivity and restore for the injuries that these estuaries experience after the deep water crisis. So. All right, this has been a phased project. I'll start where we started, which was before we collect any new data, what can we use that already exists? Studying fish is not new. Studying the fish in Louisiana's estuaries is a long time practice. People here really value the estuaries. It's a testament to Sportsman Paradise about the folks here really are invested in their recreation and their commercial lives tied to the water. So here we wanted to see, well, what can we protect from some existing data? Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, in case you didn't know, collects a huge amount of fisheries data, right? They are out there even more often than we are. They just go, and they are calling and staying and doing all this amazing monitoring. What can we do with that existing data set? So in partnership with NOAA, and university partners, and federal agencies, we started to scrape the surface of, can we detect any restoration effect using LWN data, fisheries independent monitoring data? We're not the first to do this. Other folks have embarked. It turns out it is complicated. And the data is a little bit complicated. But we did it anyways. So we looked at 17 years of fish data between the Barataria-Terrebonne basins. We looked at 144 stations, LWN monitors, and we were really interested in this restoration question. So we looked at all those stations that were co-located around some of these restoration projects, 21 restoration projects in Barataria-Terrebonne Basin, and across 17 years of data. We asked this question, could a restoration effect be detected? And so we used some emerging techniques that have been possible with the advent of machine learning. Generalized additive models are in the same flavor of these. It's big data, how do we understand some of the patterns, right? And so we use these modeling techniques to look at, well, a marsh restoration project goes in the ground. How does that change? How does that community change over time once that restoration project is in? You think of it as ecologically minded person. This is a little bit relevant to ecological succession. I know this is really maybe that are detected in different types of fisheries independent monitoring program gear types. And basically, the results of this work, which will be published soon in a peer-reviewed journal, this points us in a direction of which critters are going to tell us most about the restoration story in Louisiana, right? And this is just, you know, the tip of the iceberg where there's a lot going on in our estuaries. We see something happening, and it gives us a path forward to what do we want to dig into next. And what's next is collecting some new data to try and better understand that at a project-specific scale, but at a project scale across, again, all of these bases. So, while we were working on that project, investigating the existing data, we were working with NOAA and our other partners to develop a monitoring plan to collect new data. And why you say, oh, all this amazing data exists from LWF, why do we need more data? The reason is we can really get up close and personal to some of these restoration projects using some different data collection methods. And the data collection methods that we're using are quantitative, meaning we drop a sample somewhere, I can tell you exactly how many shrimp are in that square meter. And it's a little bit harder to do that with other methods like trawling and seining. So this data is really critical to answer some of these specific questions about restoration and how we do restoration. So, in line with the lower tropical project that we just talked about, this project for our Nectin project is, again, 3 years of monitoring. This happens 4 times per year. We have something like, oh my goodness, something like 25 to 30 stations across Barataria-Terrebonne that we are monitoring. That is a huge effort. Y'all ever been out there in the swamps on a daily basis? It's a lot. But we are really invested in understanding these estuaries with this method, and we're excited about this data set that's going to result. So again, this map is called hard to read. We're looking at a number of natural restoration, natural marshes, as well as restoration projects. And like it says here, at every one of these stations, we're looking at 3 different habitat types. We look at the water that's directly next to the marsh. We look at the marsh edge, which is well known to be the most productive part of the marsh. And we're also interested in some of the marsh interiors. Don't tell me about it. If you want to ask me about how hard it is to sample the marsh interiors of El Salvador, yeah, it's hard. And so as part of the result of this work, we are accumulating not only hundreds but thousands of data points. And all of this data is going to help us understand, again, what are these restoration projects really giving to the estuary? Are we seeing any differences in the restoration projects versus their natural areas? What are the elements of these restoration projects that are producing more or less critters? You know, does a confined edge give you just as many shrimp as, say, a gapped area? We want this information to help guide restoration, like I said before. How do you build a restoration project better? If you say you're building a marsh to benefit the fish, are you? So that's what we're trying to get to. All right, so coming to the end of this long talk, thank you for bearing with me. Again, this is, I'll say it again, it's an unprecedented amount of work that is being done by not only the folks at the Water Institute where I work, but folks that are partners, such as NOAA, USGS, all of our university partners. We are really trying to get at the big, hard questions in our estuaries. This would not be possible without the tremendous support by the Louisiana Trustee Implementation Group. It really would not be possible. This is work that can't be funded by a single other grant. This has to be something big and impactful and meaningful. All of the data that will be collected is going to be publicly available to use for whatever purpose. Use it in the master plan, update your HSIs, use it to develop new ecosystem models to help us inform restoration planning. All these great pieces for new data is super important. Again, the energy flows from the mud to the speckled trout, the land on your plate. This is what we're trying to get to. And not only for fisheries, but ecosystems as a whole. And how do we make restoration meaningful for the aquatic species and the communities that rely on these aquatic species in Louisiana? And I don't think I actually put my name at the front. My name is Erin Kiskaddon. I work at the Water Institute of the Gulf. I'm a coastal ecologist. And thank you very much for listening. These videos are so slow. No? Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, again, Captain Jake Stoll, we met before we started. The sampling equipment that you use, is it something that you leave in place and then come back and return?
No, this is, they're called drop samplers. It is a very large, heavy cylinder we suspend off the bow of our boat. It's attached to a winch. We hit a trigger, it falls into the marsh. We suck everything out so we can tell you exactly how many critters are in this area of water, and then we lift that up and we go again.
It's like a real-time sample, yeah.
Correct.
Do you have any interference with, you talked about the fishermen, any of the fishermen that work those areas?
No, they've been really nice.
Good.
Everybody is super curious. Can't tell you how many times we get to a dock and we're setting up equipment and folks will come over and say, what the heck is that giant thing for? We get to share all about the cool work with the community members, and everybody is super jazzed and excited about us out there.
Yeah, 'cause I work with the Greater Northern Port Safety Council. It's added a harbor safety committee, and we had a meeting yesterday, and pilots are putting together a handbook to go out to a lot of the fishermen and people like that to advise them about maybe projects like this. It might be something they might want to expand on that, because like I said, we're starting to see that there's, you know, communication not only with the fishermen, some of the hunters and the other people that are actually out in the river, you know, all the time, including when it's foggy. And, you don't want to be running over different pieces of equipment.
No, we're about to come into hunting season pretty soon, and that'll be a fun time too. Explain to folks what we're out there doing and how it's important for the ducks. Yep.
Hey, I'm Rebecca Trish with Louisiana Wildlife Federation, and I'm so excited to hear about this because it's some data that I think you've also been wanting to get analysis for and make sure it's collected, so I'm going to follow up with you. But when are you expecting to release reports in 2027? Or is it 2028? I saw, I'm just paying attention to what you were talking about your time to collect data.
Yep.
When could we expect to find this?
That's a great question. We will be releasing data annually as it is QAQC'd and made available by our partners. So every year, I have the nice job of asking our university partners, hey, where's your data? Is it ready? But we, at least part of the Water Horizon, has to be made available within 1 year of collection. So by 2028 is when it will be all available. I hope very much. But I think government shutdowns don't accelerate things.
Okay. So we can just keep checking in as you're collecting it, so, you know, budget.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
We need this data.
We do.
Are you looking at tarpon? Is that one of the sport, the game species?
Not specifically.
Because I've been more aware, I didn't realize tarpons spent some of their life cycle in wetlands. We've been thinking a lot about how wetland dependent much of
absolutely. Sorry. The question was about how long does it take us to do our sampling. On a monthly basis, to hit all those 10 stations in Barataria, it takes us 3 days. It's a lot of area to cover. You can't, it's just too much. And then so for the lower trophic level sampling, so like coring, we take hand cores, that takes 5 days. And for our Nectin project, oh boy, that one is hard to say because we got multiple books going at the same time, but somewhere around 2-3 weeks. Yes?
And is that weather dependent?
Oh, yes. Luckily, we are blessed in the fall with the backing down of the thunderstorms and the rain. It's been a really nice fall. Please, everybody, fingers crossed for tomorrow. It looks like rain. As long as the thunderstorm chance isn't super high, we're not going to be too worried about our lightning rod of a rig. Yeah, so it is weather dependent, all this work. We do our best to work with the weather. I've never checked the weather so much in my entire life. But, you know, it's part of the job. Anything else?
Just not a question, but a comment.
Yeah.
My name's Tim Allen. I work for Apache. So
Hi.
we are one of the field laboratories you provided.
Yes.
Thank you for your acknowledgement of landowner participation. I'm representing the Landowners Association here today, and I know there are a lot of private landowners that are equally interested in your work. The comment is, you guys have seen how passionate she is in her delivery. Imagine sitting through her sales pitch when she's asking you, can I come on your property to do all of this plethora of work that I didn't understand any of it. But when you see somebody with that kind of passion, you want to help them out. So congratulations, I'm glad your project's underway. One of the, I guess, the side effects of giving permission is, one of the things we ask for is a report at the end of this exercise. I'm not looking forward to reading that report at all.
No.
I'm going to have to hire you to interpret that.
We'll make sure to give it a nice cover letter, executive summary, it's digestible.
Erin, thank you for that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 50 cans. It's nice to formally meet you and not outside.
Same here.
Nice to meet you.
Good work.
Go ahead.
So, you started with adaptive management, right?
Correct.
So doing all of this to get to a point where someone says, this is what, from the data we analyzed, what we probably think we should do, and then try it and continue to see if that happens.
Yeah.
What's the time frame on the adaptive management side of this? And how does this continue into that actual return on the investment?
That's a
Hey,
really
Mayor,
good.
let me try to summarize the question because I know folks working with you on that. I guess, basically, Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong, the question was about the timeframe for the feedback and the information that you're gaining from this, data collection to affect future restoration and how that might impact the resources that you were talking about.
And on and on.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is a really great question. Monitoring adaptive management is a continuous and forever cycle, like you mentioned. I think it started, at the onset of the coastal master plan. The coastal master plan is one plan that's constantly improved on and iterated, right? As new science information is made available, all the models are improved with the hopes that we continuously improve our practices of restoration. So this data, I know some of the data out of the lower trophic level project will, there's an existing ecosystem modeling project now. We're hoping to improve some of the ecosystem models with that new data. Because a lot of the, specifically the chasm comprehensive aquatic systems model, sorry, it's based on assumptions, for the benthos based in Chesapeake Bay. We are really different than the Chesapeake. Well, we don't really even know if we're different than the Chesapeake because we just don't know. And so we are soon as it becomes available, will help guide developing guidance for actual engineers and construction practitioners in how do we build these restoration projects better. What is the engineering guidance that we can provide? Now that's the crux of it. You know, you can tell a construction manager or a designer, hey, you need to make this a little bit shallower so the fish can use it. An engineer or a designer or a planner can't necessarily take that information and make it implementable. They need numbers, they need specs, and like what kind of slope, how much fill, what kind of fill. So we are really trying to give them that information. Timescales on that. I'm hoping within the next 3 to 5 years we can really see the results of some of this data collection actually being used. But then I think it's up to the folks that make the big decisions to leverage it.
Okay, thank you, Erin. Got one more.
I mean, I think you presented a very optimistic view. I mean, so the realism is that it takes people that have to make decisions to actually decide that these things are going to be done.
Correct.
I mean, this is, as a scientist, we always try to provide the information so that way the best decision can be made. But the reality of it is that there's a lot of things that are in place that this is the way we do things.
Correct.
And it takes an awful lot of momentum to change that. I think, you're doing all you can, make the data available, and you're trying to get it fed into the models that needs to be done. But the reality of it is that, not all of that science goes into decision making that happens. In some cases, a very long time for it to happen. Sometimes it's not just one study, but multiple studies that all show the same thing before people will finally acknowledge that we need to change things. I'm not trying to, change your what you're saying here is I think, the time frame you presented is a reasonable one for how decisions could get made. But they're going to take a lot of things that are outside the control of generating this type of data for them to actually implement and have an impact. That's just something that we just need to acknowledge and try to work on and try to encourage people to make sure that when decisions are being made, they try to use the best science that's available. Because that's one of the things that kind of slows down our process. Even the iterative process of the coastal master plan. It takes a very long time. You get 6 years between plans. We're already most of the way through trying to plan what the 29 plan is going to be. And by the time you get the 29 plan being released, things are going to have changed.
Yep.
And so it's trying to make sure that people are aware of it and trying to encourage people to always look at the science and use the best science available when we're making these decisions.
Yeah.
I'm going to step off my soapbox.
Thanks, Brian. I completely agree. And I think, none of the things that we all develop out of this, talking about reference ranges and targets, all that's going to be just a recommendation. It's not going to be binding. I can't tell you, if your project doesn't make, X pound of shrimp, your project will fail. That's not going to be anything like that. All we can say is, if you want to build a project that's going to benefit fish farm, maybe grade it a little bit differently, you might see different results.
All right, thank you. I think we're going to move on. I'm sure Erin's going to be around if you guys have other questions for him. I see there you're starting to bring on that. Okay, our next speaker from the CPRA. There's Wes LeBlanc. Talk to us about the Atchafalaya Basin Master Plan.
Good morning, everyone. Thank the National Estuary Program for having me out here. If you're familiar with the Atchafalaya Basin Program, this is a portion of the Basin Program in total. In 1980s, the Corps did a feasibility study to mitigate for some of the damages that they did with the floodway system. We signed an agreement with the Corps around 98, developed a master plan. They really outlined our role as a state sponsor in the Corps' projects. We implemented some of those projects, but as the program grew, a lot of those projects were outdated, and when the program was handed over to CPRA after a legislative act in 2018, we decided that we needed a new master plan. So quickly, breaking it up, we'll go through the plan background and development process, goals and objectives for the master plan, the modeling that we're doing for the master plan, outreach and engagement that we've completed, and a couple of the projects we're getting into. So the plan development process, different than mine, anyway. There's 5 different key areas. We're going to develop the goals and objectives for the project, identify candidate projects for watershed planning units, and then we evaluate the projects that we've received, prioritize those projects, and then develop the master plan. Currently, we're in the evaluation projects stage. We've completed the first year of our schedule. We've done model development, calibration, validation. We've done an initial conditions project run. We've developed a list of candidate projects via public solicitation, as well as taking projects that are already in the Atchafalaya Basin plan from previous year iterations or annual plans. We've developed environmental scenarios and developed initial targets for decision support and development. We are now in year 2, where we're going to do looking at project attributes. We'll be modeling those projects, looking at the interaction of those projects on the landscape and with each other, and then looking at how the decision support will incorporate those projects using the modeling data that comes out of our approach. So this is the Atchafalaya Master Plan boundary. It spans from Simpleport in the north to Atchafalaya Bay in the south, and on the west and east, the guidelines. These different colors here are what we call watershed planning units. We've broken these up into basically the HUC level evaluation, so that we can look at how projects interact in different basins. So each basin has different needs. We'll be looking at, say, crawfish habitat in middle basins, black bear habitat in some of the southern basins, and then sedimentation occurs in some areas, close to others. So we have to build objectives around each of the watershed planning units to make sure that we're achieving what we want to. Some of the challenges and considerations that we've identified are hydrology, sedimentation, water quality, flood risk, navigation, and competing priorities and interest uses in the basin. The goals and objectives are clearly aligned with the master plan. As you may know, the master plan has 5 goals and objectives. We have taken 4 of those, and the only one missing is the flood protection goal. And the reason that's not in here is because the Corps manages flood protection in the basin, and we don't have authority to do like that. So you'll see natural processes, habitats, cultural heritage, and a working river system. Those are our primary drivers for how we develop projects and implement projects in the basin. A little bit about the modeling. We have 3 different models that we're using. The first model is a Mike 21 model that's not nickel developed. We're also using a HECRAS model out of ULL and a Delta reading model out of Tulane. So it is a multi-model approach. We did that so that we can look at some of the finer scale things with Delta models such as sedimentation, but we can make decisions using some of the 1D models or easier hydrodynamic models. We also developed habitat models of suitability. Again, we're looking at hardwood, swamp, fish and wildlife species, bald eagles, black crappie, bass, and alligator. The H&H models have all been calibrated and initial runs are underway. The sediment models are being calibrated currently, and the vegetation model has completed their analysis and are waiting for H&H outputs to finish collaborative engagement group, which focuses on key issues, and has all stakeholders involved. So, when we went out and solicited projects, the key engagement groups, the steering committees, they told us that sedimentation is affecting navigation and water intake in the basin. The water quality wasn't good. We had good water in some areas. We had bad water in other areas. There was anoxic stuff that getting stacked up in pipelines. There have been rapid changes to landscapes over the past few decades, and the hydrologic exchange is needed to promote healthy forests and wetlands. We also want to sustain cultural and traditional uses and outdoor resources. So, if a user group is used to going out after Thanksgiving and crawfishing in a certain area, we want to make sure that we maintain that area for future use. So, these are several project types that we are working with in the plan: hydrologic restoration, dredging and placement, sediment diversions, freshwater diversions, sediment trapping, programmatic projects, which include boat launches, basin access, and then integrated projects, which can include several different project types. When we went out for solicitation, we got 23 projects, 10 hydrologic restoration projects, 5 dredgings, 2 water diversions, 2 shoreline protection projects, dredging placement project, sediment diversion, and sediment trapping. You can see it's a pretty good breakdown along the extent of the basin. Candidate projects, this is just the project types again that we received. The ones over on the left, water control structures, channel gapping, dredge projects. We had a lot of integrated projects. And we took the projects that were solicited, the ones we took from previous annual plans and master plans, and we plotted them all in the model. So we have all these projects from dredge placement materials, integrated projects, hydrologic restoration, and freshwater diversion, all the way throughout the basin. And I'll cover a couple of the individual projects that we did this season now. Before I get into that, we are also looking at flow ravines. The Corps did a study of the old Mississippi, Atchafalaya and Red technical assessment, and from that report they evaluated changing the flows from the typical 70-30 split to 60-40 and 80-20. We're going to be evaluating what those ranges of flow changes do to our projects as we move through the planning process. So one of the projects that we received, the Wax Lake Outlet Increased Capacity Project. It's a freshwater diversion project. It really cleans out some of the sedimentation in the channel and tries to help prevent upstream flooding. Another project is an integrated project. This is the Bayou-Catawba Clearing and River Reconnection Project. To improve water quality across the Springs watershed area. The project will install a gate at the east end of Bayou-Catawba to reconnect the river and clear snag sections of Bayou-Catawba to improve flow and capacity. This is just a map of that. Here's the clearing and snagging area, and then the reconnection to the river. We've also got sediment traps recommended as projects. Again, here are a couple of instances where the sediment traps would be in the river. We're trying to get sediment out of the swamps and keep it from still be in the deep water habitat. So we'll be modeling this. Unfortunately, we don't have a model
allowed to far enough. So the sediments, suspended sediments upstream at Port and Morgan City are cut in half when it gets to Morgan City, the concentrations do. And the Corps has had elevation measurements across the upper part of the basin, I think, maybe the lower part, for years. I don't know if they've stopped them. Do you know if they've stopped them? Because it should reflect the trapping of the sediment in the basin.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could you summarize the question for everybody here?
So, you said the Corps was monitoring the sediments in the basin, and they had a
They have elevation measurements.
they have elevation measurements, and they cut those in half. Those were cut in half as a bottom half. Sorry.
So if you look at it, it's not concentration of sediment in the upper Port. They're cut in half by the time they get to Morgan City, implying a 50% traffic rate. So whether the Corps of Engineers, I don't know if they're still doing it, which is my question, have been measuring the elevations in the basin over many years. I haven't seen the data. So I just wonder if they're still doing it, because it should reflect the traffic efficiency within the basin.
I have not seen those measurements. We'll see some of the models that urban development have that data, and we can pull it from it, but I don't know if they have it. Sorry.
My name is Gary McClure. I'm at Nichols, and I appreciate you presenting this estuary program. You know, sometimes people think since the Atchafalaya is not in Barataria-Terrebonne, why we don't care. Of course, basic people care about all those bases. And my question is, on your maps, like one of the last maps you had of the basin, you know, your basin starts in, and then it ends in a beautiful double delta that I think of as the bottom of the Atchafalaya Basin. But I have colleagues who, whenever they show a map of the basin, it looks like a lake, you know, because it ends at the bottom. You know, like on your map where it stops at green, I have some people in my life that say that's the end of the basin, and the delta is not part of the basin. And like, to me, it matters because there's projects in the basin. What you're presenting here is they could be in the delta, right? I think of the delta as part of the basin. Like, is there some kind of old regulation that maybe it's Army Corps of Engineers that say the basin stops at the levee or something weird like that?
That was probably the original 1998 plan. We did send that boundary for purposes of this. Their watershed planning is simply include the deltas, primarily because one of them didn't even go yet when they put it.
So I have permission whenever I show what I call the Atchafalaya Basin to include the deltas.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So Wes, I was curious, y'all are gonna have sediment traps in the basin. It looks like they're in the channels, within the main channel. What are y'all going to do with the excess sediment that y'all dredge from the sediment traps?
So yes, some of the projects that have been proposed are separate tracks, and they primarily are in the channel itself. We haven't gotten that far yet as to what we're going to do with the sediment once it builds up. We absolutely would love to get the sediment out of the basin and use it in areas where we need it, and that's some of the purpose of this master plan, but we just haven't figured out how to do that yet.
Well, of course, that's what I'm getting at, is that we would love to have some of your sediment over in our basin, you know, in Terrebonne. That would be a great area to deposit it, you know, in some of those sediment depleted areas. I had a second question if no one else has a question. On this map, you have your separate water management areas that follow HUC boundaries. For those HUC boundaries, do they follow actual hydrologic boundaries?
So, This is based off of the original hut pin. We did manipulate those some due to boundaries. So they are a little bit different. They're not exactly like the huts LWI is using, but they serve the purposes that we need for evaluating the specific water areas.
Okay, listen guys, we are coming up on a new hour, getting pretty close to our allotted time, so I got time for one more question.
I was curious, projects like the ones you outlined there are publicly available on the website at all, or do y'all see them over?
But I think the question was, are the projects here on the website, correct? Yep.
No, the project's not on the website yet. We are trying to go to CPRA board and have a similar presentation where we will reveal some of the projects that we have gotten and are analyzing. So the three that I just showed you, this is the first time anybody's seen some of the projects that we're analyzing, but those will be out shortly. They just haven't been modeled. We don't have the models ready to look at them, but when that's complete, we'll come back to all the submitters and say, hey, these projects were submitted, these made it through for further evaluation, and these screened out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. Very good. Before I move to public comment, I want to remind everybody our next manager conference will be February 12th next year. February 12th, mark that on your calendar. Location to be determined. So we're not quite sure where it's going to be held yet. And then now I'd like to open up for public comment. Anybody has anything to say? All the public activity? Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm Monica, and I'm the Development Director for Atchafalaya Basin Keeper. Atchafalaya Basin Keeper, along with CPA West, which is a accomplishment, are going to be holding a community meeting December 10th at the Bayou Pigeon Heritage Hall, and would love to welcome you guys to come, talking about our proposed management plan of the Atchafalaya Basin, things that Wes was talking about, and looking at a holistic plan for the basin, and also discussing where the sediment's going to go and how we can get it to the coast. So this is an important meeting, December 10th, 5:30 p.m. at the Bayou Pigeon Heritage Hall. If you need any more information or would like to know about the management plan, we are here and have information for you.
All right, thank you. So that was December 10th, 5:30 p.m. at the Bayou Pigeon Heritage Hall.
Yes.
Yep, okay. Any other public comment? Well, once, twice, okay. I think we're at the adjourned session, so I'd like to make a motion, please, and you want to move us first? So let me get a second. We're good. Okay, all in favor? All right, now please stick around for lunch. I think it's just about, got the thumbs up.